Welcome to JGTCR. I'm Cope, and today we are tuning the Ford Sierra Cosworth. Let's get into it. In factory trim, this is a nimble, quick and fun drive. There is a certain chuckability about this Sierra that keeps us wanting to continue to do laps. The handling is quite tidy and it feels well matched for the package. The steering is crisp and responsive with just enough sway in the front end to make it challenging and rewarding. The power is just over 220 horsepower and it has lots of bottom end pull to it, so don't be scared to let it run from low revs, as this is where most of the oomph comes from. The power delivery is very neat. It has enough slide to it to make it fun without destroying the drive feel or our lap times. The brakes work well all round. They provide good stopping power and maneuverability under braking conditions. Let's collect our time. 8 minutes, 15.8 seconds. And now the race tune. With the large turbo in place, we now need to wind out the gears for maximum acceleration and speed. There was an issue we had to address with ride height. The body was making contact with the wheels, so we had to jack the height quite a bit. The handling is still quite tight, but it has a more tail-happy nature about it that some will love while others will hate. The steering is fairly sharp and pointed. However, it does taper off into mild understeer when the rear hooks. When wheel spin does occur, the steering feels on edge and a bit too jittery, so make sure to get it under wraps quickly and efficiently. The power is just shy of 450 horsepower. It winds out slowly, but it still has some bite to it when the suspension is disrupted. The power delivery is great 85% of the time, but the tail does get erratic at high RPM when the tail bounces around or when we turn too sharp, so use caution in these conditions. The brakes are fairly solid and stable. They do a decent job of slowing us down. Let's collect our time. 6 minutes, 38.4 seconds. And now the drift tune. This Sierra Cosworth has a very Nissan S chassis feel to it while drifting. So if that's your jam, this is where you find it. The handling is fairly good, but it does feel somewhat underpowered, but only just. The steering is considerably sharp and precise, but the tail end fails to give us the kind of push power to match it. The power, while decent in numbers, gets lost somewhere in the driveline and comes across as a bit too weak for the package. The power delivery is nice enough with no major issues, but it can sometimes push the tail end a bit too far and it spins us out. A touch more toe in on the rear may help with this issue. The Ford Sierra Cosworth has all the components and elements needed to be a great drift car. Unfortunately, it fails to execute in key areas and it just falls short of reaching its potential. And now it's time for an engine swap. Well, this is just horrible. This Sierra has become sloppy and floppy as well as slippy and dippy. The handling has been negatively affected by the swap in a major way. This Sierra wobbles around the track, unwilling or unable to settle into turns properly. The steering overreacts to our inputs and it ends up making it a very sketchy ride. The power is terrible. It's laggy down low and peaks hard up high at around 5,000 RPM. It will wheel spin in every gear. The power delivery is just as terrible. It all hits us at once at 5,000 RPM and kicks the tail extremely hard. This is basically a drift session with a side of lack of controllability. Not fun at all. The brakes do work, but rock the vehicle back and forth like a seesaw. This also impacts our ability to turn into corners, so use caution. Let's collect our time. 7 minutes, 52 seconds flat. And now the race tune. This is a terrible swap for the Ford Sierra Cosworth. It requires a lot of unorthodox tuning to make it drivable, let alone fast. This is not highly rated or recommended. The handling is garbage. We have made it work, but it's sketchy, indecisive, and somewhat unpredictable. The steering is reasonable when we have traction, but it transforms into a twitchy and skittish affair when traction is lost. The power is horrible, nothing down low and everything up high, and no good way of capturing what it puts out and directing it to the road. The power delivery is abysmal. We are constantly dealing with wheel spin that is more than happy to snap the tail end or turn it into understeer. And much like Forrest Gump and his box of chocolates, you just never know what you're gonna get. The brakes work well at slowing us down, but they do like to lock up and plow straight ahead. The more we slow down, the more we must lift off the brakes to avoid locking up. There is easily another couple of seconds in this build with cleaner driving, but as this drive is so horrid, there is simply no desire to try and find it. Let's collect our time. 6 minutes, 22.2 seconds. And now, the drift tune. The engine swap gives us a much more responsive and aggressive drift from this Sierra. The handling is reasonable, but it can suffer from the front wheels locking in due to excessive wheel speed. The steering feels very light and responsive, but it does have a bit of twitchiness to it. The power screams to life when we apply the throttle. This is a double-edged sword that we must learn to use to our advantage. It can get us out of trouble down low, but it can cause problems at high RPM. It may be a bit of a steep learning curve, but it is essential for maintaining control in drift conditions. The power delivery is considerably aggressive. The tail end does end up feeling like it's riding on ice. This means that it does slide well, but it does not have much push power, as it's too torquey to propel the chassis with directional drift. This Ford Sierra Cosworth does drift well, but it has some quirks that may turn off some drivers. And that's all we have for you today, so until next time, keep racing!